Fighting back!
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 Fighting
Starmer's a wanker!
It's a wanker!
Starmer's a wanker! Starmer's a wanker! Starmer's a wanker!
After me! Britain first!
Fighting back!
Britain first!
Fighting back!
Britain first!
Fighting back!
Britain first!
Fighting back!
Over to the left a bit, over to the left. Britain first!
Fighting back!
Britain first!
Fighting back! Fighting back!
Britain first!
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 Fighting back! Starmer's a wanker!
It's a wanker!
Starmer's a wanker! Starmer's a wanker!
After me! Britain first!
Fighting back!
Britain first!
Fighting back!
Britain first!
Fighting back!
Britain first!
Fighting back!
Over to the left a bit, over to the left. Britain first!
Fighting back!
Britain first!
Fighting back! Starmer's a wanker! Starmer's a wanker!
The streets of Birmingham weren't just filled, they were electrified. In what many are calling the boldest public demonstration since Brexit, thousands of citizens flooded the city centre, waving flags, chanting through megaphones and reclaiming their right to be heard. The air was thick with raw patriotism. Union Jacks snapped in the wind and cries of "This is our land!" roared louder than passing traffic. They weren't party loyalists, they weren't far-right caricatures. These were working-class families, military veterans, mothers with prams, teenagers draped in St George's flags, all united by a single truth. Something is deeply broken in modern Britain. This wasn't a protest for headlines, this was a warning.
And destroy lives whilst the elites overlook it. They look the other way. They provide no protection for English girls because English girls don't matter to the elite scum in this country. They matter to us though, they matter to us. In Wotherham, Rochdale, Telford, thousands of English girls have been violated, their innocence stolen, their futures shattered by these organised gangs. And what do our so-called leaders do? They cover it up, they silence the truth for their multicultural fantasy. I don't want a multicultural fantasy. It doesn't work, the experiment failed. I want an English for the English, an England for the English.
For years, Birmingham has been one of the frontline cities in Britain's culture war, where concerns about immigration, integration and identity have simmered just beneath the surface. But now that pressure has burst wide open. Placards reading "Remigration now" and "Take back our streets" were no longer fringe ideas. They were the rallying cries of thousands fed up with being ignored. And as the crowd marched past Bullring and New Street Station, a new chant took hold, on that would chill the corridors of Westminster. It started with one voice, then another, and within seconds it was thousands. Free Tommy Robinson. The name echoed off glass shop fronts and historical buildings alike.
You stand for your churches, stand for your nation, stand for your family, fight for your schools, fight for your civilization. And I know I'm preaching to the choir because you are there and you are putting your necks on the line, both men and women. You are risking your life, your livelihood, your riches. You're willing to go to jail, and that's the kind of people that are going to turn your nation back to God. So do not be discouraged. Keep your eyes lifted up. God's favor and his hand of blessing is upon you. He is going to give you the strength to fight. Let me close with this. Some time ago, a young man called our office and said, Pastor Locke, I want to be ordained into the ministry. Will you lay hands on me and dispatch me into the ministry? I said, I have one requirement. You have to go to the hospital and you have to get a full body x-ray. He was confused, maybe like some of you are right now. He said, a full body x-ray? I said, yeah, if I'm going to lay hands on you, you have to have an x-ray of your entire body. And he said, why is that, Pastor? I said, because I will never lay my hands on anyone who doesn't. So stand strong, stand firm, open your mouth, and watch God turn this situation around in your nation.
Thank you, Pastor Greg Locke. I want to introduce our first speaker this evening. You might know Sharon Worth.
This wasn't a random outburst, it was deliberate, emotional, and defiant. For many in that crowd, Tommy Robinson isn't just a man. He's a symbol of what they see as suppressed speech, double standards, and a political class too afraid to speak the uncomfortable truths. This wasn't the first time Birmingham heard chants like these, but never at this scale. His name became a lightning rod. Protesters weren't asking politely anymore. They were demanding accountability for years of ignored concerns, for scandals brushed aside, for policies that, according to them, have sacrificed public safety in favour of political correctness. And amid it all, another name began surfacing through the noise: Keir Starmer. Boos erupted at the mention of the Labour leader, followed by chants branding him a traitor. For these protesters, he wasn't just a politician. He represented the establishment, a system they feel has betrayed its own people. But behind the outrage was something deeper, a rising certainty that this movement is no longer isolated. Birmingham didn't just wake up overnight. This city has been simmering for years, caught in the middle of debates on immigration, integration, and cultural change. It's no coincidence this rally happened here. In many ways, Birmingham has become a mirror of Britain's internal conflict.
And we got to make it all the way up to the top of this hill here.
Renews a proud symbol of British industry, Birmingham today represents the cultural crossroads of the nation, with nearly 43% of its population identifying as non-white British. And a complex relationship with immigration and integration policies, tensions have grown. Quietly at first, but now loudly. For the protesters, this city is the proof of what they believe went wrong. They point to policing double standards, housing shortages, and crime statistics that, rightly or wrongly, they associate with unchecked immigration and failed multicultural policies. One marcher told a local journalist, "If we don't take a stand here, then where else?" And take a stand they did. Entire streets lined with placards reading, "We want our country back," and "Remigration is not hate, it's survival." For them, Birmingham isn't just a backdrop, it's the battleground. But what triggered the movement's shift from online grumbling to boots on the ground? What pushed ordinary people into the streets wasn't just politics, it was betrayal. That's how many of the demonstrators described it. Time and time again, grooming gang scandals have made national headlines. Rotherham, Telford, Rochdale, Oxford. And yet, despite years of media coverage, many believe justice has been slow, incomplete, or entirely absent. In city after city, victims have come forward with devastating accounts. Girls as young as 11, ignored by police and social services, whistleblowers silenced, reports buried. For protesters in Birmingham, these cases aren't just history, they're fuel. Their signs told the story: justice for our girls, end the cover-up, protect the innocent, not the narrative. Over and over again they asked, why were the victims ignored? Why did officials hesitate? And beneath the emotion was a pattern they all agreed on: silence, cover up, repeat. They're convinced that fear of being labelled racist kept officials quiet, and in that silence, lives were shattered. They don't trust the institutions anymore. It's a phrase repeated again and again through the crowd, on signs, through chants, in interviews. The experiment failed. To many attending the Birmingham rally, multiculturalism isn't a celebration, it's a loaded term. One that in their eyes has been used to mask rising divisions, not bridge them. They don't oppose different cultures existing in Britain. What they reject is the idea that integration was ever truly enforced, or even expected. The protesters argue that the UK's immigration policies over the last 2 decades weren't about harmony, they were about numbers. And now, they say, British identity is being diluted, erased by politicians more concerned with global image than national stability. They reference the 2011 speech by then Prime Minister David Cameron, who admitted multiculturalism had failed. To them, that wasn't a turning point, it was an overdue confirmation. In Birmingham, speakers didn't hold back. One man declared, "You can't have unity when people come here and refuse to become British." Another shouted, "I don't want tolerance, I want loyalty." For them, the solution is simple. Stop the influx, reverse the damage, and prioritise the native British people who feel like strangers in their own cities. The tone shifted. The chants grew darker. Because for many at the Birmingham rally, the issue isn't just cultural erosion, it's bloodshed. They spoke of Manchester, London Bridge, Westminster. Names that, for them, aren't just locations, they're warnings. Moments etched into public memory when Islamic extremists carried out deadly attacks on British soil. It wasn't abstract, it was deeply personal. Several attendees brought up the 2017 Manchester Arena bombing, where 22 people, many of them children, were killed at a pop concert. "Our kids," one protester said, "slaughtered in their own country." Another recalled the murder of Lee Rigby, a British soldier hacked to death in broad daylight. That wasn't just a killing, they said, it was a declaration. There's fury over how these events are handled, how quickly the narrative moves on, how the perpetrators are sometimes portrayed as victims of circumstance, and most of all, how the government continues to insist that everything is under control. The people in the crowd didn't feel protected, they felt abandoned, and they made one thing clear: they will not stay quiet the next time British blood is spilled. This wasn't just a flash protest. Organisers and speakers made one thing abundantly clear. This is only the beginning. Across the stage and through the streets, a message echoed this. This is not about hate. This is about survival. They insist that their movement is about protecting their communities, not attacking others. But critics are already labelling it far-right, xenophobic and dangerous. That doesn't faze them. Many attendees spoke of being silenced online, accounts banned, posts flagged, videos demonetized. They say the system, media, big tech and the political class has done everything possible to erase their voices. But this time, they've taken it offline. They're printing flyers, creating local support networks, rallying at town halls. They've pledged to vote tactically, pushing for candidates who will prioritise deportation, immigration reform and protection of British values. Some are even calling for independent political action if mainstream parties continue to ignore them. One speaker shouted to the crowd, "They think we'll tire out, they think we'll go home, they think this is just noise." The reply was thunderous. "We are the voice of England." As the crowds dispersed in Birmingham, one thing stood out, not the signs, not the chants, but the reaction from Westminster. There wasn't one no major party leader publicly addressed. No official statement condemned or supported it. It was as if it never happened. And for those who marched, that silence said more than any speech ever could. They believe the political class is terrified, afraid to acknowledge that a serious shift is happening, a shift that can't be dismissed as fringe, a shift made up of everyday people who feel unrepresented, unheard, and unwanted in the country they call home. Keir Starmer's name became a punching bag for the anger. To the protesters, he epitomises the soft-spoken silence they've come to despise. A leader more eager to toe Brussels' line than defend British borders, they say. But it wasn't just Labour, the Conservatives too were called out. They've had 14 years, and March has scoffed, and they still handed us this mess. To these protesters, the silence from the top is not caution, it's cowardice. The Birmingham rally may be over, but the movement is far from finished. Organisers have already begun planning the next events. Smaller rallies in towns like Luton, Rochdale and Hull, as well as a larger national demonstration set for central London. Leaflets are circulating online with the words, "This is only the beginning." WhatsApp groups are growing, Telegram channels are buzzing, they're building momentum. But their ambitions don't stop at street protests. Some within the movement are now pushing for a formal political presence, either by backing fringe parties like Reform UK or launching independent campaigns that prioritise border control, remigration and national identity. To them, none of the traditional parties are offering what they want. Radical, unapologetic change. Online influencers have joined in too, turning TikTok and YouTube into platforms for daily political commentary, rally recaps, and even calls for citizen activism. What was once dismissed as internet noise is now boots on the ground, and it's spreading. What began as isolated frustration is morphing into organised defiance. A new political force may be forming, not with suits and manifestos, but with megaphones and marching feet. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and watch more.